Hey there, Outliers. Niiamah Shang here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey today. I say letting me, but I really mean us, because today we are doing something different here in the Outliers Edge world. We're slowing down, and we're also like going back to our roots. And in that case here, what we're doing is that we're bringing on an incredible outlier who's already playing a big game in the world, and we're actually spending time to expand where he's going through. The reason I'm using the extra words is because I don't want to call it a coaching session. I find that like this is actually like likely going to be a jam session of two people coming in as peers and continuing to create what we want to create in the world. But I get to be sitting here side by side with our esteemed outlier Jim Kleiber here to help continue building building out in the world. Jim, I'm glad to be in space with you. Thanks for saying yes to the invitation.
I am glad I said yes to the invitation. I'm glad I reached out to make sure it was an official, real invitation.
Yeah.
I appreciate your courage in reaching out cold like that.
Well, I appreciate you bringing me back to center. So Outliers, Jim reached out and said, "Oh, it's a coaching podcast. That's a little bit of a different thing." And I was like, "Oh, I wrote that years ago. I haven't updated that because I haven't done that much coaching on here recently." And then I was like, "But I should because I love it." And not only do I love it, but I think it's actually where I believe in giving people an experience of what is possible for them, and the interview style is just way too safe. And it always talks about what we've done instead of where we're going and what we're dealing with in the
Mhm.
present. And so it's like
Mhm.
it's past oriented.
Mhm.
And so I said this to Jim before we got on here. I'm not sure if we're going to even release this here, but I said it to him. I want to make sure I say it out loud to all of you. Thank you, Jim, because you helped break a belief that I had where I'm like I can reach out to someone cold and invite them in and just serve them in this thing. Like the game has changed. The game has changed. So just know that because like I would be trying to show up anyway, but like I'm dedicated to really like bringing something meaningful to you today. You down for that?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All
Let's
right,
do
cool.
it.
Jim, I have a track record of been life-changing conversations. You open to that today? You good for this being a life-changing conversation?
Yeah, man. Why do you think I signed up? I
All
didn't
right.
sign up for the doldrums.
Uh,
Doldrums, is that the right word?
I'm not great with the language there, but um, all right, Jim, like let's keep this simple here, right? So I like generally the way I like to play is just to just be there with you in a jam session. I would almost like if I was going to call this thing, I think it'd be like an outlier said jam session here, right? Um, what would make this a life-changing conversation for you?
Let me be really honest. I hope that the fridge that just kicked on didn't make too much noise. That's what I'm
No,
like for life-changing conversation.
I choose to use this platform. I'm using Zoom because like for some reason it's really good at being like, well, that wasn't a person, so I'm not gonna catch that.
Life-changing. I think to I think it's really hard to predict in advance what would be life-changing, to be honest. Um, I think something that a change I almost wish to have in life right now would be to play big, big, big. Like to stop downplaying the stuff that I do. Yeah. Or maybe to at least downplay less, to play it up
Real
and to
quick, real
really
quick, right
strive for more.
there
Yeah.
was a downplay.
See, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. All right, like just to play
Hey
that.
man, my Midwestern roots are thick.
Yeah, I get you. I
Like
get you.
it's such a challenge, and we can go much more into that, but it's such a challenge sometimes.
Um, what's challenging about it for you?
The reactions that other people have, kind of the dissonance between me wanting to dream big or play big and talk big, and other people dreaming small or playing small or talking small. And just kind of like being in a room and somebody asks what you're doing, you give this grand answer and you're so excited and full of life. And then you ask them and they're like, oh, I just do this. Like, oh. So kind of that emotional disconnect in a way where it can feel very uncomfortable sometimes to be the only person in the room who's really excited about life or excited about work or proud of what they've done, or at least expressing that pride or that excitement.
Okay. Um, a couple things are playing out for me right away here.
Yeah.
Uh, are you down for this conversation to not be like for you to just like be able to play in that place where like I'm legitimately already excited for you, Jim. I'm excited with you as well, right?
Hell yeah, man. Can I swear
Yeah, yeah,
also?
you can do like
Okay.
this whole thing's about being you. So like
Okay,
it's
hey,
like
you know,
like this is what
I'm
comes with
fine
it.
with
Like,
it. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. I like so I'm deeply curious right now, Jim. Like firstly, this like what's like two things right now that you're working on or that you've done that like that you're just incredibly proud of right now.
Proud of. Wow, many people, if not most people in my life, might tell me I should be ashamed of this, but I have been working on things with emotion and communication and conflict resolution for 12 years with very little pay and have run workshops in like 10 or 15 different countries and have built an app and built multiple websites and had so many one-on-one conversations, did so many things, um, and have persisted so much, even though people in my life, some of the closest people in my life, are like, you should stop doing that now, or you should do it in a totally different way. And I'm like, no, but the way matters. And so, one I would say is the persistence in doing it, and not giving up. And then what would be another thing? I'm really proud that I have the courage to challenge some deeply held cultural norms. Yeah. And I don't always challenge them, but the fact that I challenge them and continue to like come back to challenging them, I feel really proud, terrified, but also proud.
Real quick here. Terrified for real or not?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes challenging really deeply held cultural norms, like one of that seems so simple, is just crying. Crying is so taboo in so many cultures around the world. To really let myself cry in front of other people starts to make them cry and can get some people really angry and really yeah, kind of bitter and try to stop it. And I'm like, whoa. So something so simple as it comes to communication of emotion can really like disrupt people's foundations of life.
That's what you're about though, isn't it?
Yes, but the terrifying aspect is when people's foundations of life are shaken, then they can respond in many different ways, whether that's leaving, whether that's attacking, like physically or emotionally. Hey, man, some of the things people have said to me. Hey,
Yeah.
just because I want to, like, just because I want to cry, for example. And it's like, what? Really? Okay.
Yeah. Let me ask you, so like what about that like scares you?
What scares me is, I mean, you call this Outlier's Edge, right? That's the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Being a really far outlier, we're talking maybe the really far edge of the bell curve
Yep.
is also really abnormal. It's also excommunication sometimes.
Yeah.
It is just being so far outside of what other people know and even understand that it can be really lonely. The fear of loneliness, the fear of not having any money, not having any friends, not having romantic relationships, just because I want to say how I feel. I mean, that's just one example, but really cutting to the core sometimes, getting so far out there can be really far out there.
Yeah, like when I hear you talk, it feels like you're straddling the line of like outlier and outsider. Like like
Yeah.
if you go too far, you go from being an outlier as part of the data set, or to just being
Mm,
like actually tossed out of the data set and being like you're this these results clearly aren't right, and you're out completely.
precisely. Yeah. You're absolutely crazy. You're not a leader, you're crazy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
yeah,
that
yeah.
that's the border, the very thin line between the two.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what some of the things that get to me is like uh a lot like there's often times where like A, both are true. And then B, like one is true until people find out that it wasn't true,
Mm,
like,
mm.
let me see here. There's one thing you should know about me is I'm a recovering people pleaser. All right. And I saw that there. Like, what did you get when I said that?
What came to my mind is that you in the past were much better at saying yes to other people than you were to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you're trying to learn to also do what you want.
I think so. I think I became a lot of things for people, right?
Hmm.
Um, right now, like so we're getting attention to know each other. Right now, I feel that like you're very you have a skill set and like one of your skill sets is I think this was part of you talked about facilitation and such. One of the things about your skill sets that I think you're really good at like creating spaces that of openness for people to just feel comfortable in it.
Hmm.
Is that right? I can tell
Hmm.
like in your language is very like it's direct but still very open at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I kind of just want to hear the direct. Like I feel the space that you're making in here, right? Where you're like, that's why you're like, it's exciting but terrifying. I'm like, are you saying that just to make it like more like make it more palatable for me to be in the space with you? And then I was like, what makes you scared about it? And then you're like, yeah, they might say some things. And I'm like, so how do you feel about like, let me check in.
No, keep going. I'm curious. Keep
Yeah.
saying some more.
Yeah. There's I just like I experience you so far as someone I'm like that's like really really good at creating space for other people, you
Uh,
know, and it's
uh,
like I feel like there's just like this thin layer that's like you're saying exactly what you mean, but then you're holding back every single punch. You're landing it and you're throwing it. It's just like everyone's held back.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, my friend, he said before, he said, people give you advice and you don't take their advice. You want to go here, but you don't go here. You kind of come somewhere in the middle. You're not over here where what you actually want to do, but you don't actually do what they want. So they get pissed off that you're not listening to their advice, but then you're pissed off at yourself because you're not actually doing what you want. So it's this weird middle ground. So I appreciate kind of like the landing the punch, but not landing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a fear that I have that if I am just direct, like really direct, it
Yeah.
will overwhelm the hell out of people.
It's big for some people. Yes.
And the fear is that maybe many people, and maybe many people that have been close in my life.
All right.
And
So
it comes down to that a lot of times. So it's
yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I can speak in one way and I can gain my fans, and maybe my fans are this new customer base or whatnot. But does that mean losing family members and losing some of my best friends from growing up? And like that's where a lot of I think the fear comes in,
Yeah. So
drastically changing the life. Yeah.
if I'm getting you right here, right? Like there's something inside of me just like opened up here. If I'm getting you, there's actually like two sets of people out there. There's everyone else and your family and friends, your family.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm getting you here, check in here with me. From what you just said, it feels like you don't mind pushing the envelope. You don't mind going further with people who don't really know you, your fans, your audience, your customers. Like there's like you'll push the envelope with them. But then when it comes to the family and friends, there's a line that you know that you don't want to cross, or that you're not necessarily sure would be crossed. And like it doesn't feel like everyone's created equal, essentially in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's because of maybe the attachment and not wanting to lose them just in general, or if it's because the everyone tends to be maybe more culturally aligned in some ways. Whereas, I'm the kid from Michigan who went to school in Illinois and then worked in Miami and then studied abroad in Costa Rica and then in Colorado and California and Tanzania and Germany and and I
Yeah.
spend all my time working on emotions. It's just like being a real, let me put it this way. In the sea of people, I may not be an outsider, but in the family sometimes or the neighborhood, it can feel like an outsider sometimes, not the outlier.
Okay, so like, can we play with that, like, and like create that distinction for this conversation? It doesn't need to be
Sure.
true, but I
Yeah.
think it might give you more space, so you're not applying things that you might want to do for the family to like the sea of people.
Yeah.
I think
Curious.
like I think
Yeah.
we can create that kind of distinction here. All right.
Okay. Let's try.
All right, cool.
Let's try.
Let's try. Let's give it a shot. I don't know if it's gonna work either.
let's
I don't know if it's
let's
gonna
see
work
what's
either.
gonna
Let's
happen. Let's
see.
go. Yeah, let's
All right.
go.
let's focus on the family part because I feel like if I'm getting you like I'm hearing it sounds like in your family you're one of the only in your family like the rest of the family kind of goes in a certain direction and you've gone off to go have a completely different life.
Yes, and I would say even with most of, not even just the family, like Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, yeah, I mean, if I live in San Francisco, there's a lot more people who are trying to start a company or try to do this, or in Boulder, Colorado. But in Southeast Michigan, people work in the trades, people get a job at General Motors or Ford or one of the automotive companies. And it's kind of how people do things a lot of
yep,
times.
yep,
Um, and so to question the fundamentals of like, communication about emotions, but also business models, hey,
yeah,
it can just be like, why don't you just do what everyone else is doing? It's that kind of, why don't you just do what everyone else is doing? But I'm like, see, there are other people doing it. They're like, but no, not really.
yeah, yeah,
Not here, there aren't.
yeah,
And so it's, I mean, I studied electrical engineering originally, and then I switched to intercultural communication at college. And it is really hard to interact with different cultures. I mean, I was just in Kenya 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I was in Germany earlier this year, and I'm interacting with people from multiple different countries all the time. And so it's
yeah.
like this intercultural swirl, and trying to stand out but blend in. I don't know.
So,
I'm straying away from it, but yeah.
no, let's stay on because so we're gonna keep some things together, right? We're gonna come back to the family part of this here because I do feel you. I
Mm,
feel where you're at there because it's like in the same sentence more or less. If you're talking about like, but what about like like Southeast Michigan? You're also talking about Kenya and Germany. So like you get outside of that space, right? That's not your only world, but
mm,
right? But it has a
yeah.
lot of weight. If I'm, like you feel it
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
go out.
Still
Just
home, yeah.
all right, just to play some things out here, just so we can play it.
Mm.
When you go out to like Kenya, Germany, do you still feel the same elements of like I need to play a bigger game? I have to watch out for what people are saying. Like, what's the right way to come about it? You still feel that same fear, the terrified part.
Mm, yeah. If I think about going big, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Small, maybe not as much, but if I think about becoming more, like if more followers, I mean, because there's the internet, that's a whole different concept because the internet is not restricted to geographical locations. So like getting bigger on the internet can also bring. So yeah, I think maybe it's a little different though. Maybe it's a little
okay,
different. The family is a little like the family, whatever, the extended family, the
yep.
friends family, all that stuff. Yeah. Hmm. It's almost like sometimes the analogy that comes to me, and this is not specifically what I'm talking about, but it's like, almost like if somebody were to come out of the closet as gay, and then their family totally rejects them, but then they have another community that accepts them. But do they are they okay with their family totally rejecting them? Now, I'm not saying mine would or my close friends would, but sometimes certain ideas may take longer for them to understand. And do I have the endurance to go after them, even if it can temporarily break relationships?
Do you have that endurance?
I don't know. I was even questioning it this morning, to be honest. I was like, should I just give up on this stuff? I'm really trying to do a brand new business model. I've been pushing on kind of uh, what's expected of me for quite a long time
Yeah.
in cultural expectations, but it can be really tiring at times. Um, but giving up can also be can be like permanently tiring. Let me put it that way, because this kind of like giving up and becoming almost like a zombie and indifferent to life is almost by definition tiring. Just being tired all the time. I don't know.
Jim, so I get you. I'm gonna play with you. I'm gonna play with you here because it's there's a couple things that are playing out for me right now, and
Mm.
I don't know where you are right now in the world. You have to tell me where you are right now. But one of the things that's cool about you, right? It's I came in. It's my first time really meeting you, right? And you have cornrows on right now, right?
Well, they're box braids if you want to see.
Oh, box breed. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So there's something about you that like that I look at, like I'm like it's very obvious that you're playing a different game from other people. It's very, very obvious. So there's this thing that I feel like you're trying to hide or like make sure people don't know. I'm like, I think they get it. I think they get it here,
Mm,
And
mm. Yeah, I think they get it.
I think they get it, man.
I think they just want me to be well. They don't understand the game. They want me to be well at the game. They look at me, they don't think I'm well.
Yeah,
And then they go, well, why don't you just do what everyone else is doing? But I'm like, the people who are doing that aren't well. Why would I be well doing that?
yeah,
You know?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Why
yeah.
would I want to go get a job at a place where my friend quit? He's like, oh, but I can get you a job there. I said, you quit. Why would I want to work there?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's funny. I went into this like men's clothing store years ago here in Michigan. And I went in there trying on winter jackets. And the lady who was there, she's like, here, try this one on, try this one. And there was one that had really big lapels and it was really flashy. She says, try that on. She says, pop up the lapels. I said, no, 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 no. She says, you can pull it off. I said, no, no, no. She's like, you can pull it off. I said, no, 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 no. So it's interesting how there are a lot of people who are like, dude, you're a rock star. And I'm like, no, I'm just this little guy that plays the drums in the background. They're like, no, man, grab the guitar, get in front of the mic and sing. I'm like,
That's
nah, I'm just gonna sit in the background. And they're like, dude, you have a mohawk. You should be in front stage.
that's it, right? Like that's why like we're having this conversation and like the first thing is I'm just trying to get on the same I want to see the world from where you sit, you know?
Mm,
But you're out there already, you know? I almost want to see it feels you know the story of like the pike and the barracudas. I don't know if I'm getting the right fish right, but it's like
mm,
they put some fish in a tank with like basically prey fish and a predator, all right? And they had the prey on one side and they had the predator on the other, and they put a glass partition in between. So the predator saw the fish, banged the head on the glass, kept doing that for weeks on end or however long the study took. Eventually, they were able to remove the glass partition there. There was no glass there, but the predator stayed to their side and the fish stayed on theirs, and they were able to coexist in that space, right?
mm,
I kind of feel like there's something like that going on with you right now. Whereas like at some point you might have felt some glass there. You banged your head on like just a little bit of like of letting the world see where you're letting your world see where it is. And now they get it. They know that you're flying around the world, you're doing all these different things. Like that part isn't necessary, may not be the same. That partition may be gone, and rather than you like actually flying out and doing your thing, you're still
mm.
moving as though that partition is still there.
Yeah, I think I do my thing and then I get the bold courage to do it and to do it like big
Yeah.
and then smack my head against that glass and I go, ah. And then they
I
pull the glass out. Then I do the big thing, then the glass comes back. I'm like, the glass, I thought the glass was gone. Why did it come back?
got you. Got you. All right. So there's something I'm not seeing here. And so I'm gonna move out of like the analogies to help us get it or the metaphors to get us into to what's real. All right. So there's both deeper stuff and then there's also elevated things. So as we're talking in the conversation, I'm trying to see, do we go further deep to say like, okay, how do we pull out like some of like these deeply held beliefs and way of seeing the world? Um,
Mm,
or do we go and play on the other side here and elevate in and be like, you've talked about doing big things from a general perspective, but you never once yet actually put in what it is that you want to do. And so that's the part of me like, Jim, I don't know your family. I don't know your friends. What I think I'm hearing from you is like they care about your well-being and they want to
yeah.
see you successful. And I think earlier you mentioned
Hmm.
that like financially you're doing all these things,
Yeah.
but financially you're
Yeah.
not like all that. And so they're like, these are the tools that I have. I will even give you this job that I hated, working with
Mm,
this company that
mm,
I didn't like because
mm,
I love you so much that I can give you this at the very least.
mm,
Why don't you just take it? Let me know. I like that's the sense that I'm getting
hmm.
from the
Oh, yeah. It's good intentions. It's definitely they want to help. They see me unwell. That's my belief, at least. They
they see you
see
as
me
unwell. Is that
as unwell financially, especially, and they're like, "Well,
yeah.
I want to help you figure this out." And I say, "Well, this is the approach that I have to figuring it out." And they go, "But that won't work. So let me help you this other way." I said, "But it won't work if you don't help. It sure won't work." I mean, for a while, the idea was, listen, it's almost like a nonprofit where I help people for free, and then people help me for free,
Yeah.
And so that's with finance or with other types of help. And they're like, well, that will never work. I'm like, yeah, it won't if you don't help me for free. Like, it won't
Yeah.
if you don't contribute.
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
do, then maybe there builds momentum. But if you don't, then it's hard to build momentum. Um, and it's okay to not. Like, so
So
it,
here goes. I gotta ask you
yeah,
something real quick, Jim,
yeah.
if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have big plans, right? What's going on? What made you laugh?
You want to go to the big plans? Let's go.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. No, no,
Specifics?
no, no, I don't. I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
Um, what's making you laugh here? I'm curious.
Just how defensive I got. Go ahead.
Yeah. What you make of that?
It's kind of defensive. It's kind of like sometimes if I get fired up, I actually do more. I need to get a little pissed off, a little frustrated to have some energy. I can't just be calm and relaxed and be motivated. Sometimes it needs a little anger, it needs a little frustration.
Yeah.
Um, and so a part of me actually wants to go there, I think, with people. And then sometimes again, when it comes to the expression of emotion, some people just tap out and they're like, oh, I'm done. I'm like, you're done. We just started the conversation. Like, what do you mean you're done?
That
We
sounds
just
like me and my wife. I'll be like, like in our family. I'm like, I'll hold it. She's like, I know you're like the emotional anchor in our family, And so I'm
Mm.
like, we're just getting into the combo. And she's like, I need to go to bed. I'm like, wait, but like we just like this is the spot. Like we finally got here. Yeah, yeah. Some of the things though, it became like, oh, there's some things I can only talk to my wife about because
Mm.
they're things about us. But then the other thing became that there's other people I go to for
Mhm.
for the things that I was looking for, at least in that kind of like that thing. She's amazing. Then we have so many other things that we do together. There's a spot here, Jim, that like I'm almost like as we're talking, I'm like, why don't we just like remove the constraint? Like and the constraint being like let's one you don't seem like you're unwell financially, all right? But if that's the case, if it's about like helping you like go out and get, yeah, you're like, yeah, I make some
No,
choices. Okay.
no, I am. I am
So like
certainly
why don't
am
we
there.
remove that constraint? Let's have the conversation like and just like get you to a place where like let's fill in the dollar things for you. Because what I'm hearing from you, part of what you just said here was like, well, when I want to talk to you about like some of the ideas that I have, people aren't entertaining it. I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm happy to have the conversation with you here. Like there are things that like one of the things that's going in my mind is like, oh, this guy really wants to play big, but he needs funds in order to play big, like really big. Like there's a thing in my mind that's like it's like, all right, you can get some movement you can take a movement to some level, but like you're still gonna need funds to like
Hmm.
continue to make it work. So like at some point, the bigness that you're looking to get to like is constrained by your ability to bring in the cash money to
Hmm.
continue going. Whether it's
Yeah.
even if you're like, all I need is 50,000 for myself, great. Then have the rest of it go toward all the causes you want to be about. So let me check in with you because I feel like I've yeah, let me check in with you.
Yeah. So the biggest idea I had lately, if you want to hear,
Yeah.
last 2 days, yesterday, 2 days ago. Um, there are some jobs I think should exist in the world. There are some services I think people should provide in the world, and they don't exist yet because often either an individual organization doesn't pay for it, or there's no kind of industry for it. There's no clear industry, so people don't pay for it as well. People can't be self-employed contractor and have like six clients who are paying for it. Um, and so I've been thinking a lot about this idea of how do we fund people to do what they actually want to do and we think are necessary in society. And I was like, well, what if instead of calling it crowdfunding, we call it crowd employment? What if there were this idea that people put out job descriptions of what they want to do and what they think should be done in the world, and then people crowd funded, like basically crowd employed them to do this. So instead of having six clients, you have 1,000 clients that are telling you, hey, I think this service should exist in the world. And maybe that service helps them directly, maybe it helps them indirectly. But like 1,000 people paying you to do the job. And so that when you have coaching calls or something like this, it's not a very formalized coaching call where, well, you need to pay me this amount of money or I won't give you the services. It's, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation because somebody is employing me to do this. Because most people who are employees who work in companies don't charge rates for what they're doing. They just do. They just give services for free to people. They maybe do contract negotiation once a year, maybe once every 5 years is really not much. Like, I'm going to give you these services in exchange for this money. Um, and so for me, that's a really big idea because how does that, one, that can enable what I want to do? What organization is going to pay me to go to northern Uganda to work with a peer-to-peer mental health organization that my buddy started, deep in the rural area? Also go to this ISIC alumni conference in Tanzania, where I can maybe shake up the whole association and bring this really powerful organization together. And it's got, I don't know, maybe 500,000 alumni across the world in almost every country. Um, and run these Make Music Not War projects in Germany and have one-on-one conversations with people online and do a podcast. Who's going to fund this particular set of job? Which organization, which individual? And so yeah, so that's one really big idea I have recently, and some people are excited about it. And then again, some close friends and family are like, "But you just need to get a job." I'm like, but this is a job. Oh, but it's not a job. I'm like, but it is a job. Like, even calling it a job. So I think for me, sometimes I get really excited about really big ideas, and then yeah, I don't know if I have the endurance to keep punching people with it until I find someone who like wants to catch it.
So I'm going to catch your idea. Let's just play with that then.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. Let's say
yeah.
that like for the rest of this conversation, I'm 100% on board. Right.
Sure.
How can I help? How can we help bring this out to life?
One, have a podcast where we talk about it. Two, send some money to support, to be really honest, to check out the page and see what I've written about the like the description of what this crowd employment is, this idea of crowd employment, description of the job title, kind of the job activities that I do, and then more specific activities, and then yeah, support, honestly, financially. But another one is to even consider the concept, even to just think about the concept or even to imagine how the concept might help you. Because part of it is me, yeah, doing it for me so that I can fund what I'm doing. But the other part of it is to prove that this is a concept that could work for other people so that they could do it that way too. Um, I have a buddy of mine who's a really good engineer and built this really cool product for like a medical device, like open source software. And he eventually had to stop working on it, I believe, and go work at a big corporation because he couldn't afford health insurance and he's got really high medical bills. And so like this guy is not working on a life-changing medical device because well, he did had to get health insurance and he needed the money. Like, man, how many jobs and people in this world are not connected and not doing the things they want just because people aren't giving that money? So for me, yeah, at the moment, like money awareness, um, yeah, just talking with other people about the idea, um, sharing with other people who might actually like what I'm working on, who might go, "What the hell? This guy is working on what?" He's teaching people it was emotional self-defense, but now I'm calling it more emotional combat because emotional self-defense is like a one-off fight, but combat is nonstop. Like we were talking about, I think before we got on the call. Man, problems change.
Yeah.
There are always problems. There's always conflict. Even if I run away from conflict, even if I run away from a relationship or work and I try to become a zombie, man, there's still internal conflict. Should I drink? Should I not drink? Should I sleep? Should I not sleep? So it's just, yeah, talking with other people about some of these ideas, even saying, "Hey, man, check out this day." Like I have this podcast, and one segment is Daily Gym on the Jim Kleiber show. Just say, "Hey, check out this Daily Gym." Man, I got so many different topics on there. Just so even you listening to it or share it with somebody else. I mean, I think tons of ways, or even just having this conversation. This helps me a lot. Helps me a lot, but even the fact that I could be helping you test out this coaching with a stranger that you met through email, like, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. If you had to bottom line it, all right, what would you say with the bottom line?
What do you mean bottom line it?
If you had
It
the
just
bottom line,
tells you
like,
my
so, like, yep, yep, yep. I get it. So I heard a couple different, like, a lot of different things in there around, like how I can help, right? If you had to like really just put down, like put your finger, what will be the needle mover for you?
The what?
The needle mover. What's the one thing that like if this happened, everything else would just take care of itself?
Kind of like the thing that would give me the momentum that would start to push it in the right direction, you're saying? That would
Or
really kind of
just or
shift
that would
the
just like really just take care of it all. Like I
take
like
care of it all.
yeah, like
Oh,
like yeah, like so I've been in groups and I remember one of the conversations here, like that showed up was we were having a conversation and someone was like, I need to make $500,000. Right. And my mind went to supporting them through like how they can go and get different clients, when they can come up with different offerings, so on and so forth. Um, but someone asked them, like, so who in your network right now would work with you where like you can create a $500,000 engagement for them, right? And
mm,
like all of a sudden it went from like the traditional way of thinking about like how can I get enough clients that go through there to like who's the one client that will make this whole thing meet.
mm. I don't know if I have one in mind. That's an
Okay.
interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Who's like the one person that could really move this?
Yeah. The space here, you don't have to have a name right now.
Mm.
Let that work on you. Right. But part of the reason I'm
Hmm.
asking this here, yeah, you got something?
You mean kind of like it just be a general idea of a person type thing, right?
No, like I do mean an actual person, like, but I don't
Oh,
need you to answer it right now. Like, I don't need you to be like, it's
yeah,
Steve. Like,
yeah,
it could be
yeah,
Steve if you know.
yeah.
Did anyone come up for you?
It's ironic. I do know a Steve. He might be one.
Yeah, I like look,
Steve.
this might just be like, just things being channeled in
Some
to put out for
telepathy
you.
here.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't think one's come to mind yet.
yeah. Okay. Because
Yeah.
the keep playing with that. Let that question answer. What's happening now, Jim, is that I'm choosing to play with you in a bit of like the elevated space, which is like,
Mm.
what if we just like what if we just went to try and see if we can make what you want to come to life, you know,
Mm.
and just play with that, and it could be what I'm hearing here is like it's like in some way, shape, or form, it's like you either it's kind of like a benefaction kind of model, right? Where it's like you might have like a benefactor, or in your case, like a crowdsource or crowd employed benefactors out there, where it's like this is the work that I'm doing, and
Mm.
like would you want to contribute towards that work, right? So
Mm.
and instead of having
Mm.
like one angel investor or one angel donor, you're like let's let's do this. This will just be my job. I'll pay myself a salary based on this here. I'll get myself like benefits, so on and so forth. And you're contributing toward that, which is, am I getting that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so like my mind, I'm like, this has happened many, many times. It's just been like they just use different, like they've done different avenues, right? Artists have gotten their works done. They've been able to be like sustain their livelihoods. Think about like I'm like if there's nonprofit work, there are grants that get associated with this. There are businesses that get funded millions of dollars, and then like the person takes out what they need to go live their life in there. Like there's direction in there as well. That so there's the element of so I'm tracking on that. So do you mind if
Mm.
I just let you know what's going on in my mind? So
Yeah, do your
I'm
thing.
like,
Yeah, do your thing.
yeah. The other thing that I'm hearing is I'm like, you didn't seem to have any problem like asking for money. You're like, look, what you can do is go on a podcast. You can go onto the page. You can make a donation yourself. You're like, like. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So it's not like a actual asking for money thing is actually holding you off here, because like it really wasn't like it was smooth for you. Just like, let's go on. You did it was not the majority of the conversation, the things there was like five or six other points that were there.
Uh-huh.
But like in terms of making the ask, like you're there. Like so I'm like, okay, so that's available to him as well. There's other options there, but like you can make requests, you know. So in my mind, I'm just like, what might be some shorter paths? Like what does Jim want? What might be like the shortest paths into it for him? Um,
Mm.
and just like it because you're like the thing about it is like your family's right until they're wrong. They're like,
Mm.
that's not a job. It's like you're right until I make it a job.
That's the
Like
whole point,
that's the whole point.
frankly. It's the whole
Yeah,
point of this reframe. That's the whole point. There are jobs that should exist and they don't exist.
yeah, yeah. I got you.
Mm.
What are you getting from any of that right there? I don't have any
What's
of
the
your
sh
answers. I just want to just play around with like what you
yeah,
tell me
yeah,
to think
what's
of.
the shortest path? Ah, shortest path is one benefactor. Finding one benefactor is like you've heard of the MacArthur Fellows Program.
I haven't. I don't
Big.
think I have.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So MacArthur Foundation has a fellows program. It's nicknamed the Genius Grant by
gotcha.
other people. And the whole idea, I think it's from the 1980s or so, is that they give no strings attached grants of now up to $800,000 across 5 years. I think it's $800,000 across 5 years to people they just think are making a really big impact in the world, individuals specifically. They don't give to organizations. And it's literally no strings attached. They give money based on the track record and they say, okay, like I know one guy I went to college with who I think he's the head of the Max Planck Institute or something in Germany. He's doing crazy uh, microscopy imaging. And so he got the grant and he can do whatever he wants with it because they assume he's probably going to keep working on the same thing he's working on, maybe just with a little bit more money or less stress. Um, so something like that, not necessarily from an organization, but from an individual. It doesn't have to be that much, but like somebody who just really believes and really cares about teaching people how to deal with emotions and conflict and bringing people back together and changing the way that we deal with emotions. Um, and thinks it's valuable because a lot of people I talk to are like, okay, so what are you doing again? But other people I talk to are like, I get it, man. Wow. And so almost finding somebody who's like, I get it, wow. And also, why would you go work on computer programming? No, do this. Here, take money, go do this.
So now can I play with you in a different way with this, Jim?
Mm,
Let me know here. We're going to be coming up at the top of the end of our time here, so we're going to start wrapping up. But I'm going to put one more thing in here just to play.
mm.
All right. The other thing that's going on in my mind is like, why not just start a business yourself? Get paid to do the emotional work you're looking to do, right? And let every single person that comes in that pays you know that a part of the proceeds is going to go out to, some experience in Kenya or in, whatever, wherever it is that allows you to take this over to people who wouldn't be able to get this here.
Oh, okay. Lots of things come up for me. Um, One of them is a deeper conversation about, uh, I'd call it like contingent payment.
Okay.
I will give you, or conditional payment. I will give you this service only if you give me this payment, which in terms of sociology, they call it like exchange orientation versus communal orientation. And as people become more communally oriented or basically more emotionally open and connected to each other, it can get really hard and really uncomfortable to ask people to pay for things to and only give it to them in exchange. Like for example, if you're in
Hold on
some
one second,
your
one second, one
buddy,
second. You're
yeah,
losing me in the theory because I'm not
sure,
talking like I'm talking to you, right? So like you're losing me in the theory of this here. You're like, well, like there's a theory about a thing. I'm like, are
is a
you saying that
fantastic theory.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, like
I feel uncomfortable when I feel really connected to somebody. I feel uncomfortable charging them money for it and forcing them to pay for me to give them the service, even if they have money, even if they have money. Because you know
interesting.
what? Sometimes somebody who's rich just wants to sit at the bar and talk to somebody. They don't want to sit and have a formal session or.
All right. This is going to be a deeper, like longer conversation because there's places here, Jim, like as I follow you, where it's like
Mm,
it feels like you created a very wonderful trap for yourself, right?
mm.
And so I'm following through, and you're like, even if they have money, it still feels uncomfortable. I'm like, but why, right? And you don't have to answer it like maybe right now in this moment.
Well, I would gladly
Yeah.
to force people to pay to receive the service.
So
It's not about,
what's the
hmm?
forcing part? What's the forcing part about
I
this
will
here?
give you this service only. Like if you go to the restaurant, I will give you this hamburger only if you pay me. If you don't pay me, I'm not giving you the hamburger.
Okay. So
It's that like direct exchange of value. It's like it's contingent. I'm only giving the service if you give.
and so what's the way you want to be? Because I think I heard you say earlier, you're like, but the point of it is I want to do it a certain way. So what's the way you want to be? Because that's 99.8%
If I want to give, I give.
yeah.
If I want to give and I think you need it, I give it.
Okay.
If you want to have a conversation, I don't want to be like, well, that'll be $100 to have the conversation. No, man, you're struggling and I care about you. Let's have the conversation.
It's interesting as you say this because like we're gonna start wrapping up here. Like, I appreciate you, Jim. I'm looking forward to the ongoing conversations.
Yeah.
The thing about it for me that's playing out. So however you like I'm all in on any of the ways that you go about doing this. I think the thing that keeps coming out for me is I'm like, Jim has so much to offer to this world, right? Like we are just meeting each other, but I get that your capacity is really, really dynamic and you are out there offering. And I'm like, he's doing this. I don't know how you're doing it. Actually, I'm like, how's he flying out to Kenya? Like, how's he making up? I don't know how you're doing it, but you're like, somehow you're doing this without like the overall, like the actual funds. And like, what's going on in my mind is like, especially when you said I want to play big, 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 I'm like, how big can this thing really get if you allow, like, if we were able to get past like some component in the way you're currently looking at the world. For example, you're like, I want to give, then give, you know? And like I don't know, I'm trying to see, like, is there a world where both of these things can coexist? Is there a world where like you give the service here and maybe your business model is like I'm gonna give you the thing, you pay me if you love it. Like I'm just wondering if
Mhm.
like the only way to like get the non-contingent thing, like if that's core to who you are, Jim, okay, then let's play with that. But I'm like, is that like, is the only way to do that by not asking for money? Or is it like, I'm going to serve you regardless? This is what my invoice is. The way that like, I'm not suggesting like everyone go out and do that, but like, I'm curious about like, what are ways that we can play inside of your philosophy that go beyond the
So,
current element?
so the analogy that comes from some of the theory I was talking about is if you give a friend a ride to the airport and then they offer you money, it can feel really offensive, right? You're like, dude, you're my friend. I just gave you a ride to the airport. Like, why are you? Or if you're in someone's house and they offer you a beer and they say, well, my invoice for the beer is $5, but I mean, you don't have to pay, but that's my invoice. And you're like, huh? So sometimes even the suggestion of a direct exchange of value in the moment can create distance in the relationship, can create kind of this emotional discomfort and separation.
All right, but like let me play it on the other side of it. If you keep offering to take your friend over to the airport and you keep doing it and you keep trying to find some way for
Mm-hmm.
them to be able to get back into like equilateral, like into like into equilibrium with you, but instead there's just this accumulating pile of like gives that they're like, I can no longer go out. How do you address that?
I think two ways. One, only give when we want to, and two, ask other people to give to us and receive.
Okay.
The challenge, I don't have a problem
Well,
giving.
wait,
It's
hold on
the
one second.
challenge is
What
when I
happened to the
ask.
what happened to the receipt? Okay, so so they have to correct it. We're gonna have to play with this. We're at time. We're getting a little bit like cerebral with this all, but like there's something in what you're saying that like I'm following. I'm with you. I think it's really interesting that this is how you want to go about doing things, and the crowd employment makes a lot of sense in different way to me. Um, a part of me is like, it's like what's the miss? What am I missing? Because you like it's like I'm trying to find like that. What's that 1% sliver that makes like the crowd employment something that you're like, I don't mind asking people for this versus like I wouldn't want to ask my friend to like, you know, pay me back for something or whatever. Like there's something in there where it's like it makes perfect sense to you, and I know that it makes sense. I am really curious about like what is that sliver that allows you to ask for something, but doesn't but might feel like a conflict of like of self when you ask in a different way. And it might be theoretical or it might be something that's much deeper. Unfortunately, we don't have like the time to go into it all. Um, but I will tell you this on my end, Jim. A, I like the way you think. B, you're in good company. I may not see things the way you see things, but I'm gonna keep asking out of curiosity to help challenge your thinking, right? And like and to find whatever small hole exists for everything you want to come through. Because you put a lot of constraints on in some ways, right? Yeah, but it's like it feels very constraint heavy, you know. Um, and so again, yeah.
I think sometimes doing the things that we want to do,
Yeah.
a lot of other people can perceive as attacks and punches. Like they're getting punched in the face by what we want to do.
Yeah.
And for me, that's why I really started a couple months ago thinking of this as emotional combat.
Yeah.
And it's still practicing. How can I do things that I think might really help a lot of people, but other people might feel punched by them? For example, me asking for money. I think it's okay to ask for money. If I've given so much to people for free, I think it's okay to ask people if they want to give money to me.
Yeah.
But some people, they don't just say no. They say, "What are you doing? You're so much better than this." And it's like, what? Like they felt so offended by me even going down such a path. And I'm like,
Of asking or for of
yeah,
giving.
for asking.
Okay. Wow.
Because in their mindset, okay, in their mindset, I think that you're supposed to have a relationship with people like this. And when you ask, it actually brings the relationship closer. You're not supposed to be so close to each other. Why are you asking people? You should only ask your family for money. Don't you're never or maybe you never ask anyone for money, but you're asking strangers. You shouldn't have such a close relationship with strangers. Like, why not? And so, like, for me, so much of it comes down to the foundational of just how emotionally open I am to myself and to other people
Yeah.
that it can really shake. And am I willing to have a lot of people feel like they got punched? And
That's
that's
so,
where
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. All right, Jim, we're gonna stop like,
yeah.
but like you're describing commerce, so there's some part about what you're saying where I'm just like, I think I'm still I hear what you're saying, but
Commerce is
there's
here.
yeah.
Commerce is here. Charity can often be here, like it's just like various levels of intimacy, frankly.
Okay. And okay, if I'm
Commerce
getting
can
you,
often have very deep, like distant intimacy versus kind of really close
oh,
intimacy.
got you. Okay, got you. So it's less like in exchange per se, but it's more like in the
The
way that you're
relationship.
asking, it feels more like charity than actually an actual commerce. Is that what I'm
It feels
saying?
more like somebody would, like on their deathbed, ask one person in their life for money, whereas
Yeah.
I'm out here asking 1,000 people for money, and they're like, "Huh? What do you? How?" And I'm saying I'm scared and I'm vulnerable. It's I'm opening up so much emotionally on Facebook, and they're like, "What are you doing?
Okay. I got
Like,
you. I
what are
got you.
you doing? Why are you so emotionally naked? Why put some clothes on? Like, you shouldn't be that open with strangers." I'm like, they're not strangers. I feel really close to them. Well, no, you shouldn't. They're just your colleagues. I'm like, but they're humans. But like,
All right, so we're
but
gonna like let's
yeah,
schedule another
we can
conversation.
keep
I
going.
I I,
Yes,
under, I understand this here. Thank you.
yes.
No, it's becoming clear to me as it goes on. Jim, what was your biggest insight from today's conversation?
Biggest insight that you, I don't know if this is that you thought I was comfortable asking for money, whereas I felt terrified. I felt sick, and I was like, like, oh, what am I doing? You're asking on the podcast? You're asking this guy for money? What are you doing? So I think a lot of it is just the realization that yes, I'm worried about other people's judgment of it, but I have a deep judgment of a lot of these things myself. And so it's getting past that internalization of some of these voices and some of these perspectives.
Yeah, we'll have these conversations as it goes on. Yeah,
And what about you? What was
thank you for asking. I think it's the thing for me is like, oh, I got it, and like I like to jam. I'm being here with curiosity. This works. I care about people. Um, I have to take off right now, but
no? It's
like
okay.
that was what was really real for me. And it's just like being in a space of like, oh, I really love this. I love getting to know people through this, and just being curious to see how your world looks like.
You too, man. Now
I
imagine
appreciate you,
if
Jim.
people crowd employed you to do this.
No, actually, I want to make like because it wouldn't be enough, Jim. That's the thing. That's what's happening. Like I'm like, for what I would need for the impact I want to make, it wouldn't be enough. People couldn't crowd
Mm,
employ me enough to do what I want to do. That's why I'm like, that's why I'm asking about this stuff. I'm like, how big are
mm,
you talking? You said big, big, big. I'm like, how big, big, big can you get with like just covering your like thing? That's where I was having a disconnect. You get what
mm,
I'm saying? But we'll
mm.
we'll play. We'll talk. We'll talk in there. I like. I got you. All right.
All
Outliers.
right.
Check out Jim. See what he's doing out here. Like he like is clearly thinking about things in a different way. And I like to continue to support that. I appreciate you, Jim.
I appreciate it too. Thanks, man.